Hello, checking in here today on a brew day. First time in a long time I've actually videoed a brew day, and actually there hasn't been a lot of brew days since the last time I put a video on the channel. But today I'm going to talk a little bit about this recipe I'm making on the Grainfather, and probably more specifically the hot rod that I've got as to help heat my Sparge water and to help give me a good boil on the Grainfather itself. I don't think, actually, I know I haven't shown my Grainfather on the this channel before. As you can see here, I'm about 15 minutes left in the initial mash. Recipe today, making a Kolsch. Very simple recipe. Some Valley malt, Pilsner malt, which is a small craft maltster from nearby in Massachusetts. I'm in Connecticut, and so I figured out 9 pounds 7 ounces of that, and then 5 ounces of Wireman Vienna malt, just because it was a little extra that I had left over from another video. But that's what we're brewing here today, and today is going to be the first time that I've been going to use the hot rod heat stick as a supplemental heat source to give my weak little Grainfather a better boil. So put together the recipe primarily in Brewfather, use their profile, actually use the profile for the 240 volt version to get boil off volumes. So it gave me what I got there, close to 10 pounds of grain, about 9 pounds 12 ounces, and it gave me mash and strike water, which was roughly 4 gallons of each. And as you can see, we're here. Oh, I need the flashlight because it's a little dark down here. I have the hot rod in here heating up my Sparge water. My cooler, I had it pretty well up to temp, and I walked away for it was probably closer to an hour, because this was it was an hour, because this is I'm doing a 75-minute mash here, and it dropped down to temp again, so I'm heating it back up. I'll check back in periodically here and give you my thoughts on what I'm seeing here today. All right. Okay, checking back in. Mash is finished probably about 10 minutes ago. Currently raising temperature for mash out. I'm trying to do a full mash out. The temperature, getting a pretty good temperature rise from the Grainfather here. 10 minutes. I'm actually, I'm probably not gonna pull off the top plate and stick a thermometer down in the grain bed and everything, but willing to bet that while the probe is measuring 166 underneath the grain pipe, center of the grains themselves are probably not up to that temperature yet. So I'm going to give it a little bit of time here and let everything equalize, and go from there. All right, checking in again here. In the midst of the Sparge of this Kolsch, as seems to be the case most of the time when I don't use rice hulls. The Sparge is going, but it's going pretty slow. Here's the hot rod. Currently out of stock right now. Or I don't know if it's out of stock, but this was the last kind of regular hot rod with a 90-degree bend that was in stock at this current time. DIY version, I put it together myself. The Element is a Denon? I guess I'll probably link to it, that I got on Amazon. Would have bought it from Brew Hardware, from Bobby. If I had thought about it at the time, because I know I have another 120 volt Element kicking around here somewhere in the move. It's currently missing, so I ordered this, looked for the Element, and it seemed like I could probably get it a bit quicker on Amazon. And I don't know, this one is, I'm sure it's Chinese made. No, it's Chinese made, but it's all stainless steel, so I figured I'd test it out. So far, no complaints. no rust or anything. But yeah, the hot rod itself, so far, putting it together, the one thing I would mention that you need to do is if you go and get your standard AWG type, or what is it, SWOO, sorry, SJOOW cord put on this, you need to make sure it's rated for 105 degrees Celsius if you're going to boil it. Didn't think about that. Didn't buy wire when I picked it up on Brew Hardware, and after I ordered it, watched the video. Bobby has a very good video showing putting this together, and realized that the cord that I had here, I had a spool of cord here that I was planning on use. It was only rated to 90 degrees Celsius, so I had to run out to source some at Lowe's and buy it there. But yeah, that's it. I'm not going to completely disassemble it at this point, even though once you have it kind of put together, I don't think you're going to take it completely apart too often, because yeah, you have a nice little tri-clamp down here that comes off easy, but you're still wired in. Your cord to the outlet is still wired into the element. So once you get it apart, it's not like you're going to pop the element off and everything's going to be perfectly fine for you to take the element away and wash it, and then completely wash out the hot rod. But yeah, so far so good. Again, nice little branding on the back, if you can see that. Of course not, the light here is kind of sketchy, but yeah, that's on the back. That's it. I would say, I think Bobby recommends it in the Brew Hardware, recommends that you use 12 gauge wire. Some folks, I'd have to look at the voltage again. It all really depends on the element you put on it. This is a 1500 watt element that I did put on, so I wanted to use 12. Okay, checking in here again. At boil, been at boil for 10 minutes. So where are we? Pretty good boil going right now. Much better than what I would typically get just on the Grainfather element alone, which tends to be more like a like a simmer really. But anyway, yeah. So right now I'm running the hot rod stick direct into the wall, so that's at 100%. And I went into manual mode on the controller to put the Grainfather itself into about 50. I was running both at 100% for a little while, and you could see where the foam came up. I was quite a ways from the top of the kettle. I did get up around 7 gallons, probably a little bit more than 7 gallons of wort in there for my boil. And I was getting close to a boil over a couple times. I, killed the heat and stirred it back in, and, was blowing on it to try to get the foam to go down. I think we've got all, the break is pretty well established at this point. So even if I went 100%, I'd probably wouldn't be facing any boilovers. But right now, that's a nice good boil for what I want. All right, checking in again. About 20 minutes left on the boil. Turn the counterflow chiller on. Not bad, little flow. Turn the counterflow chiller on again for second time. Typically, I like to run it a couple times to get a little sanitizing action going on with the boil. Of course, with the Grainfather, yeah, that's perfectly fine. With the Grainfather, I did put, what was it, almost 2 ounces of hops in at 60 minutes. So the little filter that's down there on the drain port, or whatever we're calling it, gets clogged up pretty easily. By looking at that flow, I only have another half ounce of hops to add here in a little bit, adding it at 5 minutes, I believe. So yeah, so like I turn the chiller on, the boil, the temperature. Anyone who has a Grainfather is used to this, yeah, and it's down to 220. Just put the the power up a little bit till the boil gets going back to where I want it. You know, that's still, even that, you know, with the just running on the hot rod, that's a decent boil. I'm at 211. It's really boiling. Um, it's just not quite going as much as it was going before. Like I said, I'll put the power up on the Grainfather element a little bit till I get back up to the good rolling boil I had before, and then put it down. As you can see, 20 minutes, so that's 70 minutes of boiling. Yeah, I'm right about a gallon of boil off right now, which is, I think it was 0.9 gallons was for the 240 model. So it looks like with the the heat rod, yeah, hot rod, and going, and the element on 50 is a pretty good approximation of what the 240 would do. Pretty close anyway. Put this back down in half, and everything is steaming up right now because we get a lot more boil off, and I turned off my exhaust fan to take the video so we don't get the noise. So that's about it. I will likely check in later. And checking in again, coming down to the end of the boil. You can see where we are here now. I think it's 2 or 3 minutes left. I popped pulled the hot rod so it's out of the way, and you can obviously see the boil difference. You know, at 100% of where the Grainfather is. You know, and this, oh, that's a better focus. You know, this level of boil is okay. Again, my concern with the hot rod, yeah, I want a bit more boil vigor, but I also want the time. You know, it didn't take long to get this thing up to boiling. When I, start messing around the counterflow chiller, any temperature drops come right back. So that's where we are. And I'll check back in a bit later. Okay, so this is the end of the brewing footage. Where did it end up? As we can see, I had calculated for 5.5 gallons in the fermenter. Probably more like 5.25, which I haven't done the math, but my target final gravity was 1047. Actually got 1053, which is probably, and we see what we got left in here. It's a bit of a mess. We chugged through and did it though. I got a lot of water left over. Must have a good 20 gallons of water. And here was my sample. I already took the hydrometer out. It's 1053, as I said. Nice color. Should be a nice beer. Tempted to throw that in the fermenter, but I'm not going to do it. So yeah, that's it. So I'm going to pitch the yeast and let this guy ferment out. And that's about it. Checking in again. It's the next day. And of course, it's going to be dark in the fridge, but the beer is in the fridge chugging away at 60 degrees. Here is the hot rod all cleaned up. It was extremely easy to clean after I took it out. Well, for the most part, there's the hot rod, cleaned up nice and easy. Took next to no time. Didn't pop the tri-clamp for obvious reasons, as I was mentioning before. One interesting thing is the element. If you read the description, it says they apply the stainless steel by, some process. So the element material itself is not stainless, but they cover it with a stainless steel coating. You can pretty much see the lines here right where the heat is, and to me it looks like, how there's still some shiny spots on here and there's a bunch not. It looks like pretty much all the quote-unquote stainless have flecked off. So that's all in the beer. I'd assume the flakes themselves, well, let's not say in the beer, it was in the wort. I would hope, whirlpooling and transferring and stuff, that's mostly, heavier and probably fell to the bottom. And it's probably going to end up in the trube anyway. But if there's a metallic off flavor in this batch of Kolsch, which It's going to be nice and light. If it's there, it's going to shine through. I know where it came from. So probably think twice about ordering these elements off Amazon, the Dernold. Um, really all you need to be stainless is, where the element meets the housing down here. The other element I got from Brew Hardware was like that. The element itself was, you know, was, uh, was a darker material, an actual element material, which was fine. I've never had an issue with that one or the other huge element I've had in my bigger uh, electric system. So that's the last thought about that. So I mean, other than what looks to be the flaking, it performed great. You saw the Grainfather was boiling vigorously. I boiled off. It must have boiled off in a 90-minute boil. Well over a gallon. Probably a gallon and a quarter or something. And I think that was the last thing I wanted to mention. Oh no, the other thing I want to mention is, this is a fairly big piece of metal, so it's not going to hugely cause a volume displacement, but it caused a little confusion for me when I think I popped it in. I was like, oh great, I'm over 7 gallons from where I thought it was, and I was like, yeah, I'd probably want to do some tests to see how much. Um, it actually moves the water level. Not a huge amount, but when you're running tight on your volumes like I was and trying to get 5.5 gallons in the fermenter, based on what I calculated, and I probably got 5.25 when I threw the starter in and a bit of that the starter itself. That was about 800 milliliters. It brought it up to a more respectable level, so that my losses won't be that bad. But yeah, it works well.